Can you tell us, please, what are some of the external stressors that happen when you have a low NAD level?
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that can cause low NAD levels in the body. I mean, life's tough. There's stress, there's toxins. People who work out a lot can burn through NAD levels quickly. Alcohol consumption, food in your diet, which causes inflammation and causes lower NAD levels. My patients often ask me, like, how much NAD do I need? How often should I take it? I tell them, get as much as you can, because everything you're doing in your daily life is causing you to burn through your NAD levels. And you really can never have too much NAD in your body because you're gonna go through it. It's like getting an oil change. Like, you can never have too many oil changes on your car. It's just gonna make your car operate better. And so I try to give people that sense that as much NAD as you can get into your body, whether it's a daily pill like True Niagen or other forms of NAD, can only be beneficial in the long run.
Okay, so we're doing a live podcast, a live panel discussion on the benefits of NAD, because there's been such curiosity, and there's been, like, it's caught fire on the internet recently with a lot of discussion from like biohackers, celebrities. Everybody wants to know and curious about all the benefits of NAD, what it does, how it can help you with your lives, and we're going to be speaking all about it. We have an expert panel here with some fantastic people. We have Dr. Darshan Shah, who is the founder of Next Health and a longevity expert, a surgeon. He's just a fountain of information, and you'll hear it very soon. We have Dr. Aimee, who's AKA known as the Egg Whisperer, who's a fertility doctor, an OB-GYN. We have Todd Anderson, who is a performance coach, the founder of Dream Recovery, a sleep expert. Nice to be here. Thank you for being here. We have Brooke Burke, who is a fitness expert, a host, personality, and just overall wonderful, healthy, wellness person. And we have, of course, Dr. Abe Malkin, who is the founder of Drip Hydration, who is a concierge doctor, and also a longevity expert. So this conversation is going to be a really good one. And thank you again for the live audience who is going to be here listening. It's a captive audience, and we're going to get going here. So I'm really excited about this. So let's start. All right. Who? Oh, Mona, I'm sorry. I didn't see you over there, Mona. I'm sorry. This panel is so long and vast. I apologize. We have Mona. How do you pronounce your last name, Mona? Rosine, who, I'm so sorry about that, who's the Director of Scientific Affairs at ChromaDex, who is the parent company of True Niagen. So thank you for being here. That wasn't on purpose. This is a very long, big panel, and please, I apologize. Thank you for that. Thank you for tapping me there. That was great. There's so many questions. We're going to go right into it. And actually, Mona, you're going to be I was going to figure it out pretty quickly, right? Because obviously I'm giving you the first question. Can you please tell everybody what is NAD?
NAD is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. How many of you got that right? I see one hand. It's a molecule that's found in every living cell, plants and animals, and it's involved in over 500 different chemical processes in the cell. So it's crucial. It's a crucial molecule for all cellular function and cellular performance. Now, if our bodies lose NAD, which they do over time and exposure to metabolic stress, then if it ultimately is completely exhausted, then the cells die. Too many cells die, then we all know what happens there, but we won't go into that. The other aspect of NAD is that it is it's involved with, as I mentioned, with these chemical processes, but it has been studied for well over 50 years. The thing is, though, is it's been growing in popularity because of the research, the celebrities that have been out there promoting it, especially with IV NAD, as well as the biohackers that are out there. So we're finding a little bit more information about it, and the research is growing, and we're excited to see where it ends and where it evolves.
And so maybe Dr. Aimee, can you, because you are a fertility expert, what is the correlation then between what you do and how NAD is helpful for your patients and why, you're such a big proponent for it?
Well, not to get too dramatic, as Mona said, as NAD levels decline, your cells die. And there's one cell that I fight for every single day. And I think, no offense, Darshan, and all the guys on this panel, but that's the egg cell. I think it's the most important cell. And you guys all have friends, I imagine, who've gone through fertility treatment and IVF. And sometimes the woman's egg cells run out before they're done having their babies. So that's why True Niagen is really important to me in my practice. And we also know that as NAD levels go down, and it starts going down in our 30s, that's the same age that our egg supply also dwindles. So I'm fighting for every single woman's chance to have a baby. And, you know, repleting NAD is part of, it's one of the greatest tools in my tool chest that I've been using now for almost 6 years.
Wow. And you've seen a huge improvement with people once they start taking NAD?
Incredible. It's actually a patient of mine who introduced me to True Niagen. So she had been trying for years. She literally had done 6 IVF cycles, and she was a PhD scientist. And she found a mouse study and showing how if you replenish NAD in mice who are NAD knockout mice, that they actually start having babies and their fertility rates are better. So she experimented on herself. I did IVF on her, and I was like, holy shit. If you had not done, you guys are supposed to laugh. I just swore. Come on. I know it's not a Friday night, but that's okay. And we're not drinking tequila. It's just, you know, protein shots.
I know, it's very serious. I feel we're at like, this is going to loosen up a little bit.
But my point was, she was 43 years old, and I said, if I didn't know you, I would have said, you're a liar. Like, this is only the kind of cycle that an egg donor would have. I'm like, what did you do? And she said, I've been taking True Niagen. And I'm like, well, then I'm going to start taking it, and I'm going to trick my husband to have a 4th baby. And that's what I did.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I mean, I've had actually a lot of girlfriends of mine said that when they started to, they were having problems, and then when they started taking NAD, they ended up getting pregnant. I thought that was actually a myth.
It is not.
That's
my husband
amazing.
calls it his little blue pill too, guys. It helps with sperm.
Oh wow. There's a lot of reasons why you should be taking it then. Dr. Abe, as I call you, can you tell us, please, what are some of the external stressors that happen when you have a low NAD level?
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that can cause low NAD levels in the body. I mean, life's tough. There's stress. There's toxins. People who work out a lot can burn through NAD levels quickly. Alcohol consumption, food in your diet, which causes inflammation and causes lower NAD levels. My patients often ask me, like, how much NAD do I need? How often should I take it? I tell them, get as much as you can, because everything you're doing in your daily life is causing you to burn through your NAD levels. And you really can never have too much NAD in your body, because you're going to go through it. It's like getting an oil change. Like, you can never have too many oil changes on your car. It's just going to make your car operate better. And so I try to give people that sense that as much NAD as you can get into your body, whether it's a daily pill like True Niagen or other forms of NAD, can only be beneficial in the long run.
So actually, Brooke, so then how does it help you? Because you work out a lot, you live a very healthy lifestyle. How do you integrate it into your life? What do you do?
It's a long list for me. I mean, I'm going to try to humanize this too, because I know this is a lot of science and it can be overwhelming and confusing for everyone. For me, increased levels of NAD feels really, really good. And I've actually been a consumer before I was a partner. So just to bring some authenticity to this, Rob Fried turned me on to True Niagen about 7 years ago. I've been taking it ever since, and my claims could go on, but we have a lot of rules and regulations. So I want to say that I am always striving. I'm a bit of a biohacking geek, but I'm always striving for mobility, longevity, energy. Feel good. I'm trying to manage the very demanding, chaotic challenges in my life. I take it every day. It's a supplement for my cells every single day. My friends take it. My family take it. No bullshit here. Honest to God, I take it every day. Sometimes more than one, sometimes more than two. But it feels good. And I know that it's helping me combat stress. I know that it's helping me on a cellular level. And I know that we're all trying to up our wellness game. And there's so many different things that are available to us. I'm a big believer in NAD. And we can get it in a variety of ways that aren't as easily accessible to everyone. True Niagen has made it really simple. I look at it as a daily supplement for my cells. And I think that's really fair to say. And sometimes I double it up when I have more stress in my life and life is happening. So we could go into the science of it, and I know that we will, but it's your daily supplement. And that's,
I'm with you. So I mean, we have a very similar lifestyle, and that's why I'm a huge believer in True Niagen. I've been taking it for 6 years, a long time. And people always ask me like, oh, how do you feel? I don't necessarily feel differently, because when you do something for so long, that becomes your new normal. You don't know the difference, right? But I do know that it's everything's, thank God, things are all in the same place still, since it was before I took it, and I've aged. But I think it's been like an amazing asset for my overall routine and regimen. And let's talk a little bit about. I'm curious, and I think this is what the big question I'm seeing all the time online on social media. Like, there's a huge controversy between NR, which is, of course, what we're talking about, and NMN. Who can talk about this issue? What is the difference? What are they? This is the gold right here. Who wants to take it? Anybody?
I can take that one.
Mona?
So chemically and from a structural perspective, NMN has a phosphate attached to it. And with that phosphate, it makes the molecule too big to cross the cell membrane. And so what happens on outside of the cell, so say for instance you're supplementing with NMN, your body has to break that down, and ironically, it actually is broken down into NR. And then NR can cross the cell membrane. And once it gets inside the cell, then it's converted into NAD within just 2 short enzymatic steps. So that's one of the primary structural differences between NMN and NR. The other unique difference is that if you compare the two, NR versus NMN, there's about a 25% efficiency perspective of NR being able to raise NAD. So NR can raise NAD by 25% more than NMN can. The other aspect, because of that phosphate that I had mentioned, it weighs more. So from a molecular weight perspective, you need about 15% more NMN to be equal to the same amount of NR, if you wanted to shoot for 300. Now, the other aspect that we have just found out about a year ago is that the FDA came out with a statement prohibiting NMN to be used in supplements. So technically, it's illegal in the US for supplement companies to sell NMN based on FDA's decision. So that's the primary differences of NMN versus NR.
Yeah, and also because I want to talk a little bit of why I'm such a big fan of True Niagen, because there's a lot of Me Too, Me Too brands out there of claiming the same things, and I think it's really important to put some notice on the fact that because of the data, the research, the science behind it, that is why it is the gold standard in NAD. Can we just talk about what, as a company, what we do that is so much more above and beyond what anybody else is doing out there? Because I think that's really important, because especially with social media, people don't know what they don't know. And I think these are the factoids that people have to know to have a distinction between a brand that's exceptional and a brand that's like below average.
Mm-hmm. So with True Niagen, quality is in our DNA. And we do over 22 different tests, internal and external third-party tests for quality, for safety, and for purity on Niagen, which is the active ingredient found in True Niagen. The other aspect, from a science perspective, is that we have an external research program called CERP, ChromaDex External Research Program. And with CERP and through CERP, we have collaborated with over 275 different research organizations globally. And what we do with that research program is that we provide material. So we provide placebo as well as active True Niagen for the studies that these researchers apply in our program. The other aspect of that is that of those studies, 95% of them are third party. So even though we provide the material, we don't get a say in what the methods are going to be. So it's not industry driven, or it's not ChromaDex driven or True Niagen driven, and we want the researchers to study this. They come to us with a proposal, we provide the material, and that's about it. And we have that agreement there. The other aspect that CERP program has resulted in is over 25 human clinical published studies. So, and then we also have 2 Nobel Prize winners who back True Niagen.
So basically, does that mean most other, you don't, but it's just above and beyond, just based on is there a standard of research or data or science that people have to be be held to, or is it kind of like the wild, wild west out there overall?
Yeah, unfortunately, the supplement industry has been deemed the Wild West,
Right.
and that's just because there's not a lot of companies who do the type of research that we do that back up their ingredients that they have or their ingredient. The other aspect, going back to NMN a little bit, is that a few years ago, ChromaDex did an analysis of over 20 different NMN products that were on the market, and almost 2/3 of those products did not have or meet label claim. So so we have to be careful. You have to be cautious, and there are different things that you need to look for on labels when it comes to how do you find that quality. The other aspect too is when you know the maker and you know that they are the ones that are doing and creating the ingredient, then you trust them and you build that trust and that credibility behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to know because, again, you don't know what you don't know, and people's marketing can usually dominate what people's choices are, and a lot of times it's just the marketing. Okay, this goes back to maybe Dr. Abe. Would you mind answering this question? How do people know, right? I mean, yes, but based on our healthy or health habits or lack thereof, or our age or whatever the reason, or that, how else can you tell if a patient is deficient in NAD? Are there signs, like physical signs that you speak to?
I think it all goes back to the nature of what NAD does in the body, driving cellular energy production. People that are deficient in NAD, like all of us, after the age of 30, as your NAD levels start to decline, you start to exhibit signs of aging. Fatigue, workouts aren't as good, difficulties with cognition, memory, focus, things like that. That is all the aging process. And,
God, do I
as
know.
a longevity specialist, the goal for my patients is how do I age more gracefully? How do I reverse the clock on the effects of aging? So, at its very core, energy production is really what makes you feel youthful. And as you age, that starts to decline. And so people are always looking for a silver bullet of how they can turn back the clock. And thankfully, we have NAD in various different forms. And the pill form is the most easily digestible for patients to do on a regular basis as the bedrock for their anti-aging regimen. So, this has been tremendously beneficial for patients, and the benefits are so wide-ranging that almost anyone can benefit once they start reaching the age where their NAD levels decline.
Can I just add to that too? Because I was going to say that I think we would all agree that there's not like a magic pill. And I like to think about manipulating the system, but it's not really cheating the system. We're trying to fuel our system. And correct me if I'm wrong, but on around 30, our NAD levels drop. And then the next day they drop again. And the next day they drop again, and so on and so forth. So as time goes on and we start to feel the effects of aging, we recover slower, we 100%. Repair slower, our energy drops. I've just found that as a regular user, I'm able to increase those characteristics in my own life. And that's been a real game changer for me. And it is hard, like Jen said, to differentiate because we do so many things to up our wellness game. It's really hard to know what's doing what. But I definitely feel those things, and I'm striving for those things on a daily basis. And we need to improve our NAD levels for sure.
That's a great segue into what I wanted to ask, maybe Dr. Aimee or Darshan. Is there or Dr. Abe, you can also answer this. Is there an age that people should start taking it at, like to prevent? Is there a preventative piece to this, or an age? What do either one of you guys can?
I mean, for my patients, if they're taking it as a fertility patient, they actually love how it makes them feel. Mm-hmm. And they want to take it even after they deliver.
At what
regardless
age?
of age. I mean, they could be 32 years old and want to be on it. They can be 25.
Because I get a lot of questions from people who are in their 20s, like, oh, should I start taking, like athletes, a lot of athletes ask me when they're like 23, 24, should I start taking it? Will it help my recovery? Will it do this? And I want one of the professional doctors, here to say if there is an age, is 19 too young? Like, is there an age that's too young to take it?
I think for me, it just depends on your clinical history.
Yeah, it's really patient dependent. And so, I see a lot of people that are just even post-adolescent that have like insulin resistance, and they would benefit from NAD. Oh. I think athletes that are working out hard, 5-6 days a week in the gym, they should be on NAD. It really, you start making NAD from the moment that you're conceived. So you start getting depleted the moment you're born.
Like at 2 months, you give it to a baby
I mean,
that
we-
you
we-
deliver?
No, we're not going to give it to babies, but
Maybe to
But
better
technically you
breastfeeding.
can, right? There's no
You're not
negative
gonna
effects.
you're not gonna OD on NAD.
You're not gonna
I give
OD
it to
on-
my daughter who's 22 years old.
Well, yeah.
Honestly,
Oh, you
I
do?
When she's run down, when she's under the weather, when I know her life is stressed out, managing what a young woman has to, and she communicates with me that she feels better. I won't go on the record and say that we can claim that, but I will tell you that you're not going to OD on NAD.
Yeah.
So you got to let your body be your guide. Listen to your body as we become detectives.
Absolutely. Okay, Todd, you're up. So what is the connect? Is there any kind of connection between sleep and NAD? Is there any kind of
Yeah.
any research that you can
when we
talk
talk about the silver bullet, sleep, it's hard to argue. That's probably the closest thing to a silver bullet.
Yes.
But I think from a cellular energy perspective, when you align those two things and support NAD, especially with supplementation, I mean, it's one of those things, especially in the athletic world, we always talk about, like, you don't want to leave anything on the table, right? Like, what if there was that 2% or 3%? And you talk about what age you should start at, but you don't want to leave anything on the table. I think we don't either as day-to-day human beings. Like, we want to feel as good as we possibly can because we're going to do the most we can when we're feeling the best, right? So it's one of those things you might as well do it and top it off and make sure your level's at a place you want to be and you're feeling great. And the combination of sleep and the supplementation, I mean, it's hard to beat that.
Right.
And I think from an athlete perspective also, we haven't talked about this, but the quality of ingredients and being NSF certified. So that's the first thing we look at for athletes. If it's not an NSF certified supplement, they're not going to touch it because you're responsible for that going in your body.
Can you tell us what NSF is?
It's just Safe Sport certified. It's a third-party testing organization that says, look,
in English, please, Todd.
what's I was getting there, Jen. Okay. This has been my whole weekend. But basically, what's on the bottle is in the bottle. That's what it's saying, right? And that's very important for athletes. And then from an IV perspective, they don't have a lot of time. It's uncomfortable, right? And that's not something they're probably willing to do. And it's more effective to just take a supplement, oral supplement. That's a lot better. The other thing is with Olympic sports, USADA, WADA, you cannot get an IV over 50 milligrams without a TUE, a therapeutic use exemption. So instead of going through that process, if we know something is more effective, it's much easier just to, supplement using true nitrogen.
Right. Good answer.
I
Okay,
think
so-
also one, sorry, Jen, if I could jump in.
Oh, there you
One
go.
other cohort of people we haven't talked much about is people with addiction problems. We all drink and, alcohol is such a big part of our lives. Some of us or some people we know may have addiction problems. And if there's one thing you can do to help them, if they're not willing to stop drinking, it's take NAD because they're burning through their NAD levels probably faster than all of us. So in the addiction space, NAD has been very helpful for patients struggling with addiction, trying to feel normal and trying to regulate their body, while they're being exposed to so much toxin.
I was actually going to ask you about that because you and I have talked about this a lot, like offline here. Isn't it also what people do and when they're in rehab, like for rehabbing addiction?
I mean,
And I don't know if this is allowed to be talked about, like in terms of the
Like liver repair.
legalities, but I know that you do this. You use this a lot for your patients. Can you talk about that?
yeah, addiction and detox is a big part of my practice in addition to longevity. And for those patients, you can imagine they are burning through their NAD way faster than all of us. And maybe not the Olympians, but way faster than people who are living their normal lives.
Why
So-
is that? Can you talk? I'm curious.
Yeah, the toxins in their body essentially destroy the cellular energy that they're producing and makes cells less efficient, makes their NAD production lower than what an average person would have. And so they feel fatigued all the time, irritable, brain fog, and that's often a result of poor NAD levels. So in that patient cohort, NAD supplementation is incredibly beneficial.
How much do you need to supplement? Like, what is the amount?
Yeah, I mean, Todd mentioned it. Some people need IV NAD on a regular basis, especially during detox. Could be multiple times a week, but that's not accessible for everyone. So certainly a daily NAD supplement is really the bedrock foundation. And then beyond that, whatever patients can manage is beneficial.
Because I know True Niagen, they have lots of different dosages, right? 300. I know the other one's 500 that I've been taking is more professional, more for prescribed. Is there any other type of dosages, Mona, that you want to talk about, or we can any product lines that may be? No? Yes?
Well, the True Niagen Immune, which is also up there, has 150 milligrams of Niagen in it. So there's technically 3 different doses. So 150 in the Immune, 300 milligrams, which is kind of standard consumer one, and then 500 milligrams, which was our exclusive to HCP healthcare providers. So what people will need per se is very individualized, and usually the healthcare provider will prescribe what is the most taken. Now for those of us who just take it, like for me, I take anywhere from 300 to up to 1,500 milligrams, depends on what's going on.
Oh, wow.
Clearly I'm not healthy right now, as you guys can see, but
Well, you might be healthy. You just have something broken or sprained. What is it over there? What do you have?
Rotator cuff. I have a tendon that's healing. So.
Oh, wow. You got to up your NAD, I guess, then.
Cold plunge.
So is it a good idea? So, Dr. Aimee, do you start your patients on a lower dose and then is it more of a gradual thing, or how do you kind of decide what someone's baseline they start at? Like how?
I do. So they also have these powder packs that I have patients also get, so they can start off really slow. So they can even take like half of that pack, and then they see how they feel and they slowly go up. And my patients, as you can imagine, with the things that they've been through, a lot of them have a lot of anxiety. And so sometimes when you start off really high all at once, you feel like you just feel kind of amped up. And so that sometimes can cause people to feel a little distressed, like there's something wrong with them when it really isn't. So they start low, they slowly go up. Once they can tolerate 150, then we go to 300. Once they can tolerate 300, then we add a 150. And then now more recently, some of my patients have been going to 500.
I think the powder sticks are a great option as well to put into smoothies. Some people even put them in their coffee. They're really easy. They don't have a flavor, so it's a great addition in there. And then you're getting that. I do both of them. I do a lot of them.
You do that? What are your daily habits, Brooke? It sounds like you do a lot of things. So.
How much time do we have?
I do everything.
I'm chasing the feel good. Okay, so in addition to, and I'm very, very skeptical about things that I take in the supplement world. I try to get everything that I can naturally. I try to eat the colors of the rainbow, mostly plant-based. I do eat meat. But in addition to the True Niagen, I'll do fire and ice, infrared saunas. Trust me, the cold plunge, really difficult. I understand the benefits, goal on my list. I'm not doing it daily, but I also move my body. I exercise regularly. I do it for my knees, for my back, for longevity, for mobility. I do it for community connection. I believe in all of the things that I think we're chasing right now for longevity. For me, it starts from within. So I'm very, very mindful of what I put into my body. Then I'm mindful of how I treat my body, how I speak to my body. I'm a big believer in meditation for clarity, to elevate my mood. I'm a big believer in positive, loving inner dialogue and body confidence, raising children, raising young women. It's a long list, but I do want to say this to everybody. It's a daily practice, and people think that self-care comes easy. It doesn't. This is a commitment. It's a daily practice. We have to continue to elevate. We have to educate ourselves. Even days like this is a playground for self-care. It's super fun. You're all going to go home with great swag bags. We get to meet new friends. We're networking. But we also come to learn, and we come to share stories, and we come to educate people. And trust me, besides being a consumer, this is really hard to digest for us to understand what all of these big names and terms mean. But I think when you trust a brand that you've done your research on and you make it a daily practice, you start to feel the benefits, right? And then you continue. And the better that we feel, the more we want to do. The more we do, the better we feel. It's like exercise. We don't all love it. The more you exercise, the better you feel. The better you feel, the more you want to work out. Right. So I do a lot of stuff, but my basic needs are what I put into my body, how I speak to my body, how I treat my body, and how I move, right? And how I connect in the world with people like you. So we're going to get a little bit of that over there when we're done.
Right, we're going to do that later. But I'm obsessed with habits, of course, my podcast, Habits and Hustle. I always ask everybody what they do because that's how you up-level your own game, right? You can always just find maybe even a nugget of something that you didn't know. And I think anything and everything is about consistency. If you do anything just one time or two times, you're not going to see any benefit. That's for exercise, that's for meditation, that's for supplementation, for anything. anything you do, you have to do it consistently to have any type of benefit. Todd, knowing that you're here as well, and you're obviously a sleep expert, you obviously exercise a lot. So I want to know what your habits are. Like, how are you so fit? What is your daily regimen?
I don't know about that, but I'm a non-negotiable cold plunge person, which is yeah.
Non-negotiable.
So, you don't do it every day, so I'm judging you. It's the first time I met you, so it's a tough first impression. 3 minutes. But the cold plunge. Like,
every day, 3 minutes?
It is horrible for everybody. Some people are like, I could never do that. Like, every person that does it's like, it thinks it's the same thing. It's like not fun.
No, it's horrible.
But I think there's something to that.
Oh, but wait a second. Let me just say this, okay? Because I know Todd, and his whole house is a playground of saunas and cold plunges. He literally has like 11 in his backyard.
We have a sauna guest book with a Polaroid, and people sign in. It's pretty elaborate.
It's crazy. So you do that every single day, sauna, cold plunge?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Usually have like a group of
30,
at least 10 over, yeah. Honestly, though, the community, when you combine the sauna, you get a little dopamine. Also, no phones in the sauna. It's rare in this day and age to have the community that you're facing each other in a little adversity. Like, you can develop some friendships fast.
100%.
That's why it's taking me and Jen a little longer. We haven't been in the sauna, so
exactly.
she's still cutting me off, and we're working on it.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
it's taking a little longer than normal. I'm sorry. Yes, it's true.
But sauna a lot, and then I'm obviously adamant about my sleep. My bedtime and wake up time is nearly perfect most of the time, depending on travel. But and then mouth tape, obviously.
Mouth tape,
sleep
right?
Mask.
Mouth tape is a big one.
Cold temperature. Yep.
And then how about, so you work out daily though as well, right? Strength training?
Yep.
How about the fact that, I think we said this earlier, that testosterone, so strength training helps naturally build NAD levels, correct? Right? And that's not, how much does it build it? How much does it increase by, I'm asking, you or a doctor, Dr. Abe, how much does it increase if you strength train your NAD levels?
Well, muscle in general is a very important part of health because muscle is a anti-inflammatory type of tissue as opposed to fat or other types of tissues are pro-inflammatory. So it's not just about NAD. Building muscle in general helps with anti-aging, which is actually why strength training, in addition to cardio, metabolic exercise, is also important, especially as you get older. So after the age of 35, 40, building in strength training as part of your routine is incredibly important. It will lower your inflammation, reduce oxidative stress on your cells and the rest of your body, and help maintain NAD levels in addition to a whole host of other benefits.
Yeah. How about Darshan? You're like the longevity king over there too. So can you tell us, I want to know your daily habits and things that you recommend for people in an overall holistic way to kind of try to incorporate into their daily regimen.
Yeah, so a lot of the things that we talk about here,
Yep.
big sauna, cold plunge fan, of course. I have
You do
one
it
in
every
my house.
day?
Every day that I'm not
Cold plunge?
traveling. Yeah, mhm.
Okay.
I have one in my house.
Okay.
Yep.
Of course you do, right?
Yeah, and the sauna, incredible for sleep. I do that before nighttime as well. But I think a couple of things that have not been mentioned that I like to incorporate as well is I try to get a breath work practice in at least 3 or 4 times a day. I think that's really important for managing cortisol levels. Cortisol is another one of those hormones in our body that really cause a lot of bad things to happen, and keeping your cortisol levels under control is a massive benefit. So interrupting that cortisol cycle with things like breathwork practice is super important as well. And then another thing that I do that I've kind of got my kids to do now too is before I touch anything that's electronic in any way, I go completely analog and I read every morning for about 30 minutes. And that really is more, it's not just a knowledge that you're gaining, but it's also the mindset that you create first thing in the morning.
So you don't go onto your phone for the first 30 minutes?
Yeah, I actually put my phone in a different room that I don't even go into until after I've done my morning routine.
Wow. Yeah. So how long is your morning routine?
It's about an hour and 10 minutes or so.
I mean, some of these morning routines, guys, I think I talk about this at nauseum on my podcast. Like, some of these people's morning routines are like 4 hours. It's like dinner time by the time they finish their morning routine. It is crazy.
Jobs.
What?
Yeah.
They don't have jobs. People don't work anymore. I feel like you work in between the morning routine. Like, you have a few minutes like sprint that you'll maybe like check an email and go back into the sauna or go back into the cold plunge or go to the gym. I mean, gyms are packed here in LA at like 2:00 in the afternoon. It's so crazy. Welcome to LA. So Brooke, I want to ask you actually, is there any exciting launch or new addition to the True Niagen family that you want to talk about?
Well, I want to talk about all of it, but are we privileged to do that? Are we talking the True Niagen Immune, or are we announcing? I'm getting yeses or nos.
I think.
Am I the one that's going to get in trouble?
Yes,
we
you're
are.
good to go. I
We
wouldn't be bringing it up.
Do we have a
otherwise.
bottle? Do we have the beautiful new shiny silver-ish bottle with the new secret milligram dose on it?
Dun, da, da, da.
Okay, correct
Very,
me if
very
I'm wrong, because
exciting.
I wasn't totally prepared for this, but I think it is. So somebody like me, I usually double dose, sometimes I triple dose. I'll be honest, sometimes even more, depending on what my body is asking. I really have learned to be a detective. I let my body guide me for my personal needs. So now we are launching a new dose that is going to simplify that for everybody, especially those that don't like to take a handful of pills. And I think it's coming. And we're going to meet him, her, it
Dun, da, da, da.
right now. Awesome. Well, this is good. You've been
Wow.
holding out on all of us. Okay. Pro 1,000 milligram. We are all really, really excited about this, and we've been waiting for this dose because this is going to eliminate having to take multiple pills. So that doesn't mean that I get to probably double up anymore, but this is going to be a game changer for everyone. And we have been waiting on this. This is the clinical strength. Prior to this one was the True Niagen Immune that has very high integrity ingredients. And we can all chime into this too, but I think it was DC, maybe curcumin was in that one as well. And it used to be during COVID that there was sort of a handful of supplements that I think many of us were taking to combat stress. When they launched the True Niagen Immune, it was sort of all in one. Incredible research also behind the quality of all those ingredients. So this is the new baby, everyone. 1,000, have you seen this yet? 1,000 milligrams. This is the only one, so I'm keeping it. And I don't know what we're all going home with, but we're really excited about this one. Does anybody else want to add to this? Because you may have more clinical information than I'm not. Am I doing it justice?
Well, one of the other aspects about the 1,000 is that dose at 1,000 milligrams is where the majority of the clinical studies have used for that. So over half of our clinical studies are using 1,000 milligrams, and there's also another percentage, not quite the other half, but about the other third is 2,000 milligrams. So we do know it's safe up to 2,000 milligrams, and that's why one of the main reasons we're excited about that one.
And I also just want to read the tagline that finally it says, advanced inner body aging science. So again, like it's all about what starts from within.
Wait, I have one more
Aging
question,
science.
by the way. Forgot one thing. Do you mind if I ask one more question from Mona, Darshan, whoever on this side of the panel? This is the longest panel, by the way, I've ever done. I was going to ask you, do we get acclimated to what, let's say we're taking a 300 milligram. Does your body get acclimated where you have to kind of move up to see any kind of difference?
Yeah, I think once you start taking a lower dose and you get used to it, I always try to push my patients into the 1,000 milligram range, actually, is where I think the ideal dosing really is. So like, you were saying, we start off slow, but I'm always trying to get them to 1,000.
Right, because in anything else, like your body acclimates to anything you take for a long time, right?
So the thing that we've seen in the studies is that it'll raise your NAD to a certain percentage. So say on the 300, it raises up about 50% higher than what your baseline is, and then it holds it there. The study that I'm referencing was 8 weeks long. So you'll hold it at 300 milligrams at about 50% more than what your baseline is. The unique thing about 1,000 is that it goes up to 150% from your baseline. And then again, it holds it there over the 8 weeks that the study was done. So it acclimates, but it's very dynamic. As we know, NAD is extremely dynamic. So it depends on consumption and production and how old you are, because the older you are, then your production does not keep up with the consumption, because the external metabolic stressors that we're exposed to all the time could increase how much is being consumed. And so the benefit of the 1,000 is that, one, we can take a heck of a lot less capsules so we don't get pill fatigue, and then maintain it at a higher level.
So our baseline maintains.
The baseline, yeah, like if you're on 1,000 milligrams, then you'll maintain right around that 150% more than your baseline. That's what we're seeing.
Does anyone else here want to add anything about the benefits of NAD? Anything before we move on? Anybody? Anybody here? Bueller? You? Darshan? No? No? Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, we're allowed to ask questions, right? Yeah, of course we can. We're going to open up to questions. Melina, another doctor, another nutrition health doctor, of course, is in the front row. Yes, Melina. What would you like to know, Dr. Melina?
I'm just curious, like when you're dealing with patients, how you titrate, if there's any testing, if there's any evidence that it's working, because just increasing NAD levels alone isn't a specific endpoint. Does that make sense or no?
I mean, I'll jump in. I don't just treat patients for longevity. I treat patients for all of their health issues, and we do comprehensive lab testing on patients. We check all different organ function, inflammatory markers, biological age using telomere testing and other types of testing. So to answer your question, I take it as a constellation of different lab tests which indicate a patient's overall health. And NAD is part of a regimen that I put patients on and track objectively their health status through improvement in various different biomarkers.
Have you guys done any studies looking at like methylation aging with like markers of cellular aging?
So we have about 7 different human clinical studies that actually looked at different inflammatory markers, and all 7 of those studies showed that NR lowered inflammatory markers. So we haven't looked at different biological aging markers other than those inflammatory ones.
That's kind of part of my question. Okay, so that last part. But Mona, I'm just curious, like if I have I work in private practice, I work with clients who they're just kind of annoyed with the amount of supplements that I'm making them take. Sometimes it's more than 10. And if they're already on like a B complex or they're already taking B3, like how can I convince them if there's somebody with moderate or high risk, high elevated ApoB or small particle, LDL, like what do you think that this would also help and why?
It's worth a try. We don't have studies specifically on ApoB. We did have one study that showed that it supported HDL, so the good cholesterol in the body. We didn't specifically test, and that study didn't specifically test to look at how did it impact cholesterol levels. We do also have studies that for those that did look at cholesterol, it didn't make it worse, and it didn't make it necessarily significantly better. So her and I were talking a little bit earlier, and I wanted to kind of bring it back a little bit I'm a dietitian, so I'll bring it back to nutrition a little bit. But the RDAs on niacin, so niacin is an NAD precursor. All forms of niacin are NAD precursors. So NR is one of those forms. So you have niacin or nicotinic acid, and then you also have NAM or niacinamide, nicotinamide, that's another way to say it. Now, when the RDAs came out, back in the 40s probably, they were created to prevent deficiency disease, i.e. pellagra, for niacin. The thing is that those RDAs were not meant to optimize health. We found that it very well documented when it came to vitamin D. So from like just practitioner to practitioner, my perspective, I think it would be worth a try if you're working with somebody with those types of specific issues and see what happens and get those, ApoB, high density, low density, get those measurements tested.
And that's a place for you guys to look at funding.
Yep.
Is there any other questions from the? There's a 2-part question. The first part, is there a time of day where you should be taking True Niagen because of the energy piece of it? Do you guys recommend in the morning? Does it matter? What do you think?
I always do morning, first thing in the morning.
Yeah, me too. I think that's when you normally take your supplements, I would imagine. And then the other part of the question was for the GLP-1, right? Yeah, which is kind of what Ozempic. It's Ozempic. So do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, so we probably have a few hundred people on these weight loss drugs, and there's a lot of downsides to losing that much weight so quickly. One of them is they're just not getting enough nutrition at all. So I put everyone on a constellation of supplements, NAD being one of the supplements that they have to take if they're going to be on semaglutide, tirzepatide, any of those meds.
Otherwise known as Ozempic. Okay. Thank you. So technical. Is there any other question? Oh, yes, please go ahead.
For NAD drips, do you recommend for fertility patients twice a week? Or how many months before?
I feel like with True Niagen, I feel like it's plenty of repletion. I don't recommend the drips to them only because they can get really symptomatic and they can feel quite anxious and just not feel well. However, for their husbands, I find that men can tolerate the drips a lot better than my female patients. So I'll have the guys do the drips because they never want to take pills because they always complain about the pills. but my female patients will take the pills.
I have the exact opposite experience.
Yeah,
Most of the guys I know
Same
are
with
total
men.
wimps, and they like stop the IV now.
I was going to say that.
I agree.
They're so horrible. I think
Yeah.
I have to
men and
swallow
women.
that. I'm like,
I
what do
think
you
the
think
reason
we've
why
been-
people don't have anxiety after they're just excited to be done.
I know, exactly. That is actually probably true. Is there any other questions from the audience that we can answer? It's a great question. Is there anybody or any population of the people who should not be taking NAD? Abe?
Virtually all patients can take NAD safely. It's something that's naturally occurring in your body. I will say that patients who have active cancer, I work in conjunction with their oncologist to make sure that they are okay with that as part of their treatment plan. Not to say that it's not safe, but I think it has to be taken into consideration as opposed to an overall treatment plan.
I'm so glad that you just, again, I'm glad that you mentioned that because some of the questions, you hit on a couple. The rehab detox part, I get that all the time for that as a benefit. The other one is for cancer because it's your cells are turning over quickly. So I mean, I would like you to expand or somebody to expand on that whole thing with cancer cells.
Yeah, I mean, NAD is a naturally occurring element in your body. So it's not as though you're giving your body something it's not already producing. Cancer is a proliferation of cells. There's no reason to necessarily think that NAD will cause the proliferation of cancer cells. But again, I think that it has to be taken into account with the other treatments a patient's taking. So we don't put patients on it without consultation with their oncology providers.
Mm-hmm. Jen, I think it's important for people to know too, as just a daily maintenance program. Mm-hmm. The stressors of life, immune stress, our NAD levels can drop, I think it's 80%. Our studies have shown that. So in listening to your body, it's important to, I think, increase your dosage of True Niagen when you're going through those tough times, lack of sleep, stress, sickness, life, love, business, whatever's bringing you down. Really learning how to listen to your
All
body.
the above.
And I don't think there's really too much personally, but letting your body be your guide and knowing how to biohack, if you will, and manipulate your own system.
Will we look like you if we take NAD?
Yes.
Niagen? Yes, perfect. I'm sold right there. Amazing. Okay, so that I think we're good to go. I think we've kind of answered every question on NAD. If anyone has anything else, there, speak up now in the audience. Going once, going twice. Nope. All right. Well, I want to say thank you, a big thank you to my very big panel of experts here. I appreciate your knowledge, your expertise for joining us on this conversation. Today we have a lot of other fun-filled wellness things we're going to be doing. Brooke, I think you're going to be doing a workout right now, right?
I am, and I think I'm correct that about 1:30 we're going to meet on the lawn, and don't be worried, we're not going to do a really intense body sculpting cardio class. We're going to get mindful, we're going to slow down, we're going to try to get really present out here and connected in Mother Nature. We'll do a flow, we'll do some breathing, we'll do some stretching. I'll guide the class to everyone's abilities, so no intimidation. It's a very safe, free space, and I think you'll really enjoy taking your shoes off, being on earth, being in the trees, Mother Nature, vitamin D. It really will change you. And there's so many wonderful little pop-ups everywhere. So take about a half an hour, mingle, get to know each other. Find any of us, by the way, if you have any further questions. But experience everything from the drinks to the experiences that are set up. You may not have wandered over there. The Manifest Company, super cool. One of my favorites. You can design your own yoga mats. There's shots. There's the cold plunge.
Right. It's called the TheraShot.
Non-negotiable cold plunge before anyone gets a goodie bag.
You should go first.
I'll go.
Right.
I would do it with you.
That's true. Actually, in that area, it's called the TheraFrost by TheraSage. They also have a portable sauna. So you can try the hot cold. So you can try the hot cold, which is what I think Todd was mentioning earlier, right? You were talking about fire and ice, or Brooke was saying it too, or
Yeah, she was saying how she's scared to go in the cold plunge some days.
and I'm with her on that.
Yeah.
But
said it.
I definitely recommend giving it a shot if you haven't done it. And by the way, I want to say, also people listening, because this will eventually get on Habits and Hustle. If you guys need any more information on True Niagen, you can go to trueniagen.com, where there's a list of all their fantastic products. And or like I said, and if you have any other information, you can contact me. You can find Brooke Burke, Todd Anderson, Dr. Darshan Shah, Dr. Aimee, Mona, I'm not going to forget about you this time, or Dr. Abe Malkin on social media. And thank you very much for listening, and have a good one. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.